Hi, it's Jared from Strongroots Farm. Today we're going to talk about something special, near and dear to me. And this is not going to be an easy video for me, so just so you're aware. But today we're going to talk about veterans and farming. Getting out of the service and deciding you want to homestead, farmstead, become a farmer, get into this venture. Today we're going to talk about that. And if you're thinking of ever putting a negative comment on my YouTube, this is not the video to do it. You're gonna piss me off really quick if you do this. Whether you degrade my service or anybody else, or whether you say that what I experienced is not real or is different from what you experienced, I don't care. This is not the video. If you're not a veteran, maybe click past this video. Maybe this video isn't for you. Okay, so this video is stressing me out just even thinking about it. But I've been asked to do it, and I think it's very important. And so today we're gonna go into, when you get out of the service, whether you've, some of you guys now maybe have not gone to war if you're getting out at this point, but anybody in the last 20 years, it seems like you've been to battle. And you thinking about, hey, how do I get away from the world and help my stress and get into farming? This seems like something cool. Today we're gonna talk about that, and hopefully I can help you in some shape or form. Well, welcome back. Gonna throw some hay out here to the pigs real quick. This is a rough video, like I've said, for me, and I don't know why. I make these videos all the time. I have no problem talking, everybody knows it. But just thinking about this has stressed me out. And I was asked to do this, and actually months ago suggested from YouTube to do this. But I've been putting it off, like I put off everything else that had to do with the military when I got out. So I noticed when I came out this morning, it got down in the 40s, like low 40s last night. So I threw some hay into the pigs there so they can kind of make a little nest. So I avoided a lot of stuff when I got out. And I'm not saying I was struggling with my service. I served proudly and was very happy with what I did. And when I talked to the guys that I was in with, I have no problem talking about it. But I felt like when I got back to civilian life in rural America, I'm in Georgetown, Ohio, that I was kind of alone. And so I didn't want to talk about that with anybody else because I didn't feel like, one, nobody else really understood me. They definitely didn't know what I went through. And two, I didn't have anybody backing me up. And that was kind of the hardest thing when I got out, was I didn't have a battle buddy anymore. So farming has helped this a little bit, a few different ways, and I'll kind of talk about them here. So it gave me a mission, right? When I got out, there wasn't really, I was lacking a mission. I was ready to fight all the time and didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't have anybody telling me what to do. I didn't have a group of guys that are wanting to do it with me. And so, like I said, I felt alone. I did have my wife. We have a great marriage and a great family, but that's not the same. And if you've been in this situation, you kind of understand this, hopefully. But the farm has kind of given me a mission. There's always something to do. There's always something to accomplish. There's always something to fix. There's always something to get better at. And so it helped me with that. The second thing this thing did was it gave me some peace when I needed to get away. So when I had stressors of things, I can go sit on the gator and talk to the cows, or sit and just watch the cows. It's peaceful. So it gave me a way to get away from the world and away from my thoughts. And basically, I just sit with cows. And the other thing that getting into farming did for me was it kind of connected me with a group of guys from my local area that didn't necessarily know everything I went through, but could connect in another way because they were like-minded individuals. The weird thing is all three of them are Marines. And so here this Army guy gets out and all three of his closest farming friends are Marines. And it's really weird. It's really surprising. Only one of the three actually eats crowns. So I guess it's important, not to get too stereotypical about other branches of the service. I made fun of them when we were in. It's kind of a common thing to do, harass people, but farming is a way to meet up with like-minded people. And typically people who are in homesteading and farming are down to earth, calm, cool, collected, like-minded people. Most of them are Republicans. If that's what you're going for, it's a good group of people. Now, every group of people has its psycho outliers, so beware. But for the most part, to come to a place where people are willing to help you and connect to you, farming, homesteading, farmsteading, it's a good group of people. I've kind of told you some good things. I need to tell you, this is a life struggle. It will be very frustrating. If you feel when you get out of the service, as some people do, that you're failing, and I think I probably went through this the first 5 years I got out because I didn't have a team, I didn't have a mission, I didn't know what to do with myself almost. I actually tried, once I finished my degree, to go to OCS. And unfortunately, when I was in Iraq, I got breathing issues. And back then, under Obama, they weren't accepting a lot of recruits. They didn't need to do anything to hit numbers. And so the Surgeon General kicked my packet for OCS back due to the fact that I was already on disability for breathing issues. So I had this, what do I do with myself, kind of a lost situation when I first got out. And when I was in, I felt like I was a pretty good soldier, trying to be humble, but I moved up through the ranks well. I enjoyed the service. It was really one of the best times of my life. But when I was not accepted to OCS, it kind of made me feel like a failure. If you feel like when you get out, if you feel like you're a failure and you're thinking, I'm going to jump into farming, understand you're going to be a huge failure. There's lots of things to fail at in farming. Now, ultimately, you're not going to be a failure, but that's how it made me feel. The first time an animal dies, you're going to go through that trouble. The first time what you build doesn't work, there is a lot of failures to be had, or fails overall in farming, especially in this type of farming, because there's a lot to learn. It really is a lifestyle. And if you didn't grow up in it, especially, you don't know what you don't know. So you need to kind of be prepared to understand there's going to be things you don't get right. I want you to understand my heart here. These next things I'm going to tell you are kind of the bad side, and my heart is not to discourage you from doing this. My heart is that when you get out and you have a disability check or a pension, perhaps if you're retiring, to not waste that on this because you make mistakes. So go slow and research a lot. Don't jump into this full force is my advice, because if you have a nest egg that you saved up like I did when I was overseas, if you have a pension coming in or whatever, you have this amount of money that you served for and you bled for, this is a quick way to lose it all. This is a quick way. Farming will take the cash out of you very quickly. And if you listen to farmers and you know this, you'll hear this hint in things that they say. They'll say jokes about like the quickest way to make $1 million farming is to start with 2 million. So understand that this is not gonna be a glamorous lifestyle. This is not gonna make you John Dutton with a ginormous mansion and people, thousands of acres and people working for him. So that's a pipe dream in this. If you actually get to meet homesteaders, you'll realize these guys are very humble, and guys that have been doing it for more than 7 years. They broke the 7-year wall, and they've been doing it for years upon years upon years. They're humble people. They don't have a lot of fancy stuff. They live very modest. You know, very few of them have a hot tub, right? This is not something that you go and get glamorous things. Sometimes you look at farmers and you think, oh, those guys always have fancy big diesel trucks, and those things are $80,000. I don't have that. And I'll tell you that in the beginning, if you're starting with this, most of you won't get to that in the first generation. The guys who can make a decent living at farming has inherited a farm. Not to say it can't be done, but even Joel Salatin, you know, his dad bought the farm. And so as you look into these things, understand this is not a glamorous lifestyle, and it can be a money suck if you do it wrong. And so the encouragement here is to educate yourself and learn from others' mistakes, and be prepared for failure, to have instances where things don't go just your way. And it's kind of like, you know, in the service, we learn to adapt and overcome. There's going to be a lot of adapting and overcoming in farming. All right, let's get into what I think you should do. So first of all, and I'm going to keep saying this over and over, before you buy the first chicken, meaning if you haven't bought land yet, if you haven't bought an animal yet, you should do all these things before that. If you got 5 acres, 10 acres, whatever it is, you bought your land, you moved back home, and you got a chicken coop, and now you're looking to get into more into farming, it's fine. You haven't screwed up yet. But there's things that you need to do prior to going whole hog into this, if you don't want to make some of the mistakes that I'm kind of warning you about. The first few things here have nothing to do with farming. The first thing I would recommend is immediately go to the VA. I did not do this. This is not advice from experience. This is my failure. I hid from the VA for 20 years now. In fact, I went 2 weeks ago for the first time, and I've been out since '05. And so I was afraid. I thought that if I actually told what happened and how I felt and what was going on in my brain, that people would think I was psycho, and they would come and take my kids and take my guns. And so I have kept quiet about most stuff, and I avoided the VA. Don't do this. Very first thing I would do if you're getting out is go to your local rural, you know, out in the country VA county center if you have one, or go to the closest one. I don't go to the big city one. So I don't go to Cincinnati VA. I went to my local county, and I met the doctor there. Very nice. In fact, I knew him, didn't even know he worked there. And there's a lot of nice nurses there. And they talked with me, and they've been, you know, starting to help me with things. And so I would recommend this. Get in the VA system. Go and get set up first. Second thing I would do is I would register with 2 groups. I'm not sponsored by these groups, understand. I'm not paid by these groups. And it took me 20 years to get in with these groups for the same fears. Ultimately, I have one of my closest, dearest friends, Tony Reynolds. He works for Wounded Warrior. I'm going to put his email address down in the description. He bugged me to let him register me with Wounded Warrior. I didn't do it. I bought into the lie that they take in millions of dollars and only 20% goes to veterans, and I think that's a lie. I don't know why anybody would discourage somebody from getting hooked up with an organization that's trying to help veterans. And so I would register. You can email him. I haven't even asked him, but I know it's going to be okay. He will get you hooked up with somebody in your local area. He is not in Ohio. He is actually down still at Fort Campbell at Clarksville, Tennessee, if you're in that area. But he works for Wounded Warrior, and he's helping me as well. If you do it for nothing else, they sent me a screwdriver thing for free. That's about all I've ever got. I got a sticker and a welcome packet and a screwdriver handyman's thing as a Christmas gift or whatever it was. I haven't got a whole lot from them. I did go to one Wounded Warrior event. So why do I think this is important? Wounded Warrior and organizations like this, I'm not just pushing them, is a good way to get connected with other veterans, especially if they're in your local area, and meet friends that you can actually talk to. I think that's important. It's also another way that you may find another one of these guys that are homesteading or farming in this group. So if you go to one of their events, most of their events are free or very little. I've went to one. I'll put a picture on here of my son. We went fishing with a Wounded Warrior event. It was a great event. Not my thing whatsoever. I don't care about night fishing, but my son loved it. All I had to pay for was the trip down and some things, but they fed us and they got us out with people. It was a great thing. Wounded Warrior put it on. It didn't do anything for my farming. It didn't do anything for my stress, but it did get me connected with people and know that there's other people out there that may be struggling with the same thing or whatever, but it was a great thing for my son. And so I've done one of them. I am not a guy who goes to all the Wounded Warrior things, but I recommend they have some resources. They have ways to help you with other things. And so it's a good organization, I feel, that you could sign up for. And the third one, which I did sign up for as soon as I got out, a matter of fact, I think somebody else signed me up for it. I've never done anything with them, but they are a resource. Besides the VA and Wounded Warrior is the DAV. And so basically these two organizations can help you with, if you're going to file for a claim, if you're going to do these things, there's resources there. And there are a lot of VA programs out there that have to do with homesteading and farming, but the VA is very bad at helping people without them knowing, or helping, guide people in what resources are out there. So you really need a group like the Wounded Warriors or the DAV to say, hey, did you know that this was available to you for free and you can get help? And whether it's books and advice or whether it's actually funds that's set aside in grants to help guys. So before you buy a chicken, look into these, get signed up for these things, get a hard copy of your VA medical records, store it. Every time that you go to the doctor, as soon as you get home, get a paper copy of that receipt or, medical record, and keep a file of everything that every hospital does. Even if you never do anything with it, I would say, because of my failures, I wish I would have done this. The fourth organization or group I think that you need to get connected with is your local church. So hear me out here. As a veteran, I know that the military, for me, at least, the military was not the biggest pusher of religion. I didn't go into the military so that they could make me a preacher. I do know some people that, found Christ while they were in the service through other people. But for the most part, it's not something that's pushed heavily amongst my brothers. And I want to encourage you to look into this. And if you say, Jared, this is not something I need, I'll skip this part. I get it. But here's what I would encourage you to do. Just like you're researching the truth about farming and homesteading and civilian life, I would encourage you to research the truth about this. Look into it, see, what the truth is about it. Make your own decision now that you've gone through war, you've gone through the service, you've grown up and hopefully gained some wisdom through these experiences. Check it out now. It's not Sunday school time and your parents dragging you. It's not judgmental groups of people, whatever it was in your life, whatever Christianity meant to you, there's probably something different there that you're not seeing. And I'd encourage you just to take another look at it and see what it has to offer. And here's the main reason why. For one, I would not be where I'm at if it wasn't for my faith in Christ. I would not have got through some of the struggles that I got through successfully without my faith in Christ and my church family. The other thing that I've noticed when you look at successful farmers, homesteaders, farmsteaders, when you look at these people that I've met and that I'm with, when I look at what are the contributing things in their life that are similar, so things that they did that worked for everybody, because honestly, there's a lot of things that we do that work for us that won't work for you. There are things that other farmers do that work for them that won't work for us. But when I look at, hey, what are the things that we all do and that everybody is the same on, so we know those have to be true facts. Christianity is one of those things that more people in farming and homesteading connect with and do together than any other factor. We can argue about everything, but more people are Christians in this group of people than any other thing I've ever seen. There's something to be said as you get to the land, as you grow animals. Animals have a mind of their own, right? And you're going to raise animals. The land has a living and breathing microbiology system beneath the ground that is a living organism and has a mind of its own. The weather, you can't change. The weather is given to us, I know from God, or I believe from God, and whatever you think. But you're stepping into something that is very dependent on your view of a creator or how this happened. This stuff just does not happen from circumstance. And the longer that you're in farming or homesteading, you're going to realize and see the beauties of how things work together. You're going to realize the processes. There's an actual process of how things react and how things work together in harmony with nature and how this was created. If you're not a Christian, it's going to bring about a lot of questions about why we're here, why things are like this. And if you are, or you get into Christianity, it's going to answer a lot of those questions. So I would encourage you, more important than even Wounded Warrior or the DAV or the VA, my faith has helped me more than anything else. Even though I'm encouraging you to get a part of that, I encourage you to get locked in to a local church, even if it has nothing to do with farming. My faith in Christ is what helps me. It keeps me secure. It encourages me, and it gives me an avenue to see the beauty of what is going on my farm. Getting connected with a local church is not only gonna, increase your faith in Christ and help you to deal with these things, but it's gonna give you a brotherhood, not the same, but similar to the military in some organizations. My church actually has a men's group that has a bunch of military guys in it, so it connects me with other veterans, which is nice. And some of the larger churches may have something like that. So as we go from signing up for VA and military groups like Wounded Warrior, those things, we get involved into a church, we stem into the second step, which is getting connected with local people. Local people doing this kind of thing in your area. So I would say if you're within 100 miles of Georgetown, Ohio, I will put my personal farm email address down in the description. I haven't done this on any other video. If you want to email me, if you just want to come and spend a day and hang out and talk and see what I do and ask me personal questions, we will, we can schedule it in on a Saturday or a Sunday, and you can come down and we'll do it. So, or north if you're south of me. So I would try to figure out some way for you to do this. If you're out in Arizona and you're looking to do this, find somebody local, find a way through Facebook, through message boards, through VA groups, whatever it would be. Find people that are doing what you want to do before you start doing it. That would be my recommendation. So you got connected with a VA and their groups. Now get connected with local people, and they do not have to be a veteran. I would tell you that most people that are in this homesteading and farming thing would love to help a person that's a veteran and they never served. It's a way for them to serve back to you. And so I would recommend that. Don't look for just veterans. Look for anybody that is in this and ask them if you could come and see what they do and spend a day with them. Tell them you'll bring work boots and you'll help work for a day. You just want to hang out with them and see their farm and work with them for a day on the homestead or farmstead or farm, whatever they call themselves. Get connected with local people. This is how, I got into farming before I did this, and I'm recommending you don't. But I got connected with other guys in my local area who I'm still connected with that are veterans, and it has been a big help for me. The third thing that I would do once you've tried to make connections before you buy the first chicken is read some books. And so one, I think reading, I didn't read a lot before. I definitely didn't read a lot before the service. I think I read 2 or 3 books. You're in the field in the Army and you have 12 hours of downtime, hurry up and wait kind of stuff, or you're at a range. And so I started reading a little bit when I was in the service, but know that I'm not a big reader. But when I got out, reading was also a way to disappear. And it's not the same with TV and videos and YouTube. YouTube's nice and it helps, and I appreciate you watching, like and subscribe, all those things that we say. But reading got me away in a quiet place, alone. And if you're watching a video on your phone, I feel like everybody does it and nobody cares to interrupt you. But if you have a book and you're reading quietly, it's almost socially inappropriate to go up and interrupt somebody who's reading a book, which as a veteran, this was a good thing for me, that I could be in my own quiet place. I could learn, I could take notes, I could highlight things, and I could read. And so I began reading books, dozens of books on farming and homesteading and all these things. I will put a few links down below to a couple books, but I want to kind of throw out some names real quick that you should look into. And these are not in any specific order, like of importance, right? The most recent book that I bought is from Sean and Beth Daugherty. They're an Eastern Ohio couple that has what they call a farmstead. So if you're looking to homestead or farmstead, I think this is a good book. I really like that it's almost like a military plan. It's not a lot of drama. It's just do this, do this, do this. This is why we do this. Here's the info, and here's pictures. You Marines will love pictures. So it's a good book. But you got to understand this about them. I'll warn you about them. If you're not interested in milking a dairy cow on a daily basis, and I don't recommend that the dairy cow is your first animal. I don't have a dairy cow here at all, but they are big into this, and I see a huge benefit for it if you want to do it. If you have a pension and you can live on the land and homestead and just live off your pension, a dairy cow might be a cool thing, but I would not do this until you have family or a community that can help you to let you get away for a bit. And that is the one major thing negative about a dairy cow, is that it's really hard to leave because you have to milk at least once. Most people milk twice a day at a set schedule. 5:30 every day in the morning, 5:30 every evening. These animals are set on a schedule. So know that Beth and Sean Daugherty have a lot of great information. Their book is good, but they are going to talk to you about dairy cows. And if you want that, this is a great book for you. And they have several speeches and things. So that's one family that I would look into. The second one is everybody's major one, is Joel Salatin. Joel is a lot of things, and some of the things I argue with about him. He has gotten so big, he's almost figuring out now how to scale things down to help other people. He's so big. But one impressive thing, I sat next to Joel for 3 days one time at a conference, and we talked, and I watched him write a speech while other people were giving speeches. It was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. He's got this big yellow notepad, and he just writes and writes and writes, and he's constantly writing. And so I don't know what everybody thinks about Joel that's watching this video, but I'll tell you, I think one of his greatest skills is writing. and he has, I don't know, a dozen or more books. The guy's got tons of books. And some of them are on this, you know, defy the government type of thing. And I will tell you that whether that's a pro or con for you, that is his viewpoint on a lot of things, of being a rogue farmer, lunatic farmer. Everything I want to do is illegal. You know, he's very anti-government in farming. That, as a veteran, can be a pro, but it also can push you in a direction of hatred towards the government and your service and things if you fall down that rabbit hole. There's a stressor there for us that is, as veterans, that is not there for the average person reading Joel's book. And Joel, I think his dad was a veteran, but Joel was not a veteran, if I'm correct, but don't quote me on that. I've never heard him say that. I think his dad was in the Navy, if I'm right, but I may be wrong there. But anyways, the first book I would probably pick up from him if you're interested in cows is Salad Bar Beef. It's about, I've read this probably 20 years ago. It's a good book, but he has a lot of good books. Look at Joel, pick up one or two of his books, and check into him. The other person, and I read a lot of cattle books and grazing books because this was not how my family farmed. So the other person that I really like is Jim Garish. He has some books out there. And what I like is he talks about old school grazing. And so Joel Salatin kind of goes into nature, what he mimics what is in nature. Whereas I feel like Jim Garish's books, to me, you know, every book speaks different to every different person, but Jim Garish seems to tell me more about what people did in the 20s and 30s. And I kind of like that. So Jim Garish's grazing books are great. They do a good job. And so Jim Garish is another one that I would put on your list of, hey, we're going to buy this book. And, you know, it'll help you if you're looking for cattle and grazing and you're working on grass and setting up pastures and things like that. All right, so that's all the name dropping I'm going to do. But YouTube permaculture, YouTube some silvopasture grazing, setting up homesteads, farmsteads, farming. Understand, if you're looking at farming, just that word, I find a lot of big ag, large, heavy equipment, and I do not recommend that you get into this, not because I think that that is wrong, but because it takes millions of dollars to do that effectively, starting from scratch. And so you can do it on a small scale, and somebody will disagree with me, but to make a permanent, you know, six-figure living from grain, it needs some infrastructure. And so you're looking to be a homesteader or a farmsteader or have a small farm, I hope, as you get out as a veteran. So be careful of some of those chemical, big ag, big production, even things that's sponsored by state universities. Even though they're trying to look at what small guys are doing, they're really there for what the industry, the agriculture industry as a whole, is pushing. And I will tell you that the agricultural industry is as big as the military war complex. So understand that, and pay attention as you listen to people is all I'm trying to say here, in what you're watching and what they're doing and what people are actually doing. Okay, so I've heeded some warnings, told you who to get connected with. I've told you to start reading, watching YouTube, research papers. Do your research before you get into this. This should take you probably a year as you get out. Start to acclimate back to civilian life. I recommend getting a job, even if you have a full pension, even if it's a part-time thing at a TSC, a Rural King, a Lowe's, whatever it would be. Or if you have a career and you want to go get a career job, great. That's what I did. I'm an engineer now, but it's a way for you to start a mission, to start a flow of income coming in, and to start saving money and get connected with people in your area. Perhaps, hopefully, you're going back to your home. And I want to talk about that a little bit. I guess this is a hard thing. As I got out, I came back to where I left, where I graduated high school from. We're in essentially my hometown. Where I grew up was 5-10 miles from here. It was very different when I got back, and I acted like it wasn't, but my friends from high school had gone away and gone to college. Some of them were still in college when I got out. The town was different, though. Things looked different. It's almost like the colors were even different. Things were different in my hometown. It was not what I expected. Things changed. It took me time to acclimate. So if you're going back home thinking it's a comfort area, one, I would say if you had bad problems when you went in, don't fall back into those. Don't fall back into those crowds. But two, if you had things that you thought were good, if you had good community, good churches, good things, know that it may be different for you now. And if you've been out a while, hopefully you recognize this. You're not the same person that you were when you left. And those people that they had life experiences while you were in the service, they're not the same people. And they definitely are not going to connect with you in the same way. It's not going to be like you left and it's the same thing when you got back, especially if you've spent multiple years in more than just one term of service. So be prepared for that and make new friends. I'm not saying get rid of all your old friends. If you have old friends, great. It will help you to connect with things. But understand that for me, the people who were my friends when I left aren't my friends now. And it's not because we don't like each other. I think it's just we're different people now. And so that was kind of hard for me. Family was different. Church was different. Sports were different. Teachers that I saw, that I had, that I looked at a certain way, I looked at it in a totally different way. And I'm not saying this is wrong. I'm just trying to let you know and prepare you that they may be different, and it may be something that you have to think about, look at, and prepare for. That's kind of all I'm saying here. Okay, so you've got connected, you've read books, you've had time to reacclimate a little bit to society, and you've decided you want to do this, whether you already own land, already have a chicken coop, or you're out to go ahead and find some land. You've worked a little bit of time and built up a nest egg to put a good portion of money down. It's time to get started. With this, there's lots of videos on my channel and other people's channel of things that you should do. So I'm going to just hit some of the highlights of these are the key points that I think you should pay attention to as you start into this. First thing is start small, start slow. So slow is smooth, smooth is fast. It's the same thing in farming. Don't go buy a big tractor. Don't go buy the fanciest gator. Don't, spend a bunch of money on a brand new barn. Try to live debt free. Start small. How can you use scrap things and mobile things? A lot of these farming guys are into mobile coops, mobile pig pens, mobile netting. And it's because you can, one, it's a lower capital investment, but two, you can adapt it because you don't know what you really need yet. You don't know what your land is saying. So start small. Do not try to build an army of cattle and an army of animals on year one, okay? It's gonna take time to build up to where I'm at. It's gonna take time to build up where your neighbors are at. Chickens are a great starter. I've talked about this in the past, but you do not have to be successful and profitable year one. In fact, it's very rare that you are. Usually it takes 3 to 4 years if you do it right to have a decent profit from this. The next piece of advice is kind of up to you. This is just what I have done. I stayed away from government grants. I stayed away from taking money from other people. So I say start slow and don't go into debt. And that's what I did. And it has worked well for me. I have friends that took these grants. And there's pros and cons to it. This fence right here, before I got this farm, was built on a grant. It's overkill. In fact, it's a pain in the butt because of the way they force you to spend the money. A lot of the people that have taken grant money from states or from certain programs, 5 years after they took the money and put it in, they said ultimately it cost them about the same. It just gave them headaches of dealing with it because of the way they make you do things and the inspection. So I'm not saying don't do it. I didn't do it. I'm saying be weary of it. Look into all of it. It's not a free money. Don't think of it as free money, because it's not. You will pay for it over time with what they make you do and being connected with them. Just do your research on this, please. I think some people think when they see grants and they see that thing, they're like, oh, the government is going to give to me so that I can do this faster. It's not the truth. It's not the whole truth. That's a better way to put it. It's not the whole truth. So look into those things and choose wisely. I chose to stay away from it. I have friends that chose to take it and are still doing fine. But there's frustrations. Either it's slow and you have to, do it on your own income, and it's frustrating doing it my way, and it was frustrating doing it their way. So I just want to make you weary to do your research on any kind of free money or grants. The third thing I hope to help you with, or point that I have found, would be don't listen to everyone and don't take 100% of everybody's advice. Here's what I mean. So I'm not trying to offend somebody. What works for somebody else will not work for you 100% of the way, and I can 100% guarantee that. So just because somebody else does everything exactly like this and it works for them, it will not necessarily work for you, because you're a different person. You may be on a different type of land. You may have different goals. You may have different relationships with your family, all of these things, right? You have a different financial budget. So this thing is not a cookie cutter plan. There is not a battle plan for farming that is 100% every time. There are processes that work a predominant high percentage of the time, but there is not a set in place plan. You have to do it like this. How do you know what's going to work for you? And back to the Christian faith thing, we have this thing called fishes and bones. And so you take a fish and you eat the fish and you spit out the bones. And the other term that is used here is gleaning. Gleaning means you take it all in, but you take pieces out, right? So you may hear everything I'm saying and you pick bits and pieces that you want to work for you, right? And so, hey, that's a good idea. I didn't like how he did this or this or this, but that was a good idea. And I can change that to work for me how I did. So for instance, I just did this video on the hose reel, and a guy said that that's too low a volume for him. Fine, put a bigger volume of hose on there. Take what I did, transform it, and glean from it and make it work for you. And so understand, with there not being a 100% successful plan for you, there's going to be some failures. We've talked about that, but it leaves you an avenue to experiment a little bit. And for me, that is the beauty of farming. I have literally went to 5 different people and said, what would you do? And they told me, and then my second question is always, well, what would you not do? And they would tell me what they wouldn't do. And I would take all these guys' information and I would say, okay, pretty much everybody told me don't do this. And that's what I did. I just did the exact opposite of what everybody else told me to do. Now, it was within context. So those guys were trying to sell me fertilizer or special seeds or whatever it was. And I actually went to a seed salesman and said, what should I plant in my pasture? He told me this. I said, what would I never plant? And I had already done my research. I knew kind of what I wanted to plant. And he said, don't put this if you want cattle. And I looked at it and it was everything I was researching that I wanted. That's what I seeded. It was actually a mix called the equine grazing mix. Now you can't do that for everything. Otherwise you're going to experience a lot of failures, because not every piece of advice that people give you is bad. The main key of that story was I did my research ahead of time before I asked other people's questions. So I figured out what I wanted, then I went to other people and let them confirm, used wise counsel to confirm what I was thinking. If they pointed me in a different direction, then I'll go back and do more research or more testing. Or perhaps, like I have this new farm, I'll do it in spots of test that won't cost me a ton of money. I can afford to spend $100, $200 for this acre or 2 acres or 3 acres to change and do a test there. But I'm not going to do my whole farm that way and put all my eggs into that basket, as they would say. So the third thing that I would recommend is to glean. Glean from people, do a lot of research, and glean that information in. Figure out what's going to work for you. And if you do the other things, you live debt-free, you start small, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, you know, all these things. If you have a failure, you're going to learn from it. And the learning has to become the success. I heard a farmer say one time, his goal is to fail at least 5 different times a year in 5 different projects. So he's going to test enough stuff that he's going to have 5 failures a year, meaning he's going to have 5 learned lessons. And that's a lot. So this guy knows what he's talking about. He's been farming for 30 years and he's still trying to do enough testing to fail, because he knows with his mindset and experience, he's gonna have successes. So understand you're gonna have failures, but if you're doing it small, you can afford to have small failures. Anybody that says go out and do it this way to be successful, you're gonna have a higher rate of success if they know what they're talking about, but it's not always gonna be perfect for you, and you're gonna wish that you would have done things smaller and done things in a more testing style mindset than this is the way I have to do it. And there's peace in knowing there's not really a right answer. You don't have to do everything in this manner. Well, in closing here, I want to bring up a point, and I've left it for the last point here because it's my military dark humor. So I don't need anybody to tell me thank you for your service. And I've left it for last because there'll be people who fast forward through my videos and they're going to thank me for my service down the bottom, because it's a natural thing. The longer you're out, people do this, and we appreciate it. But this will tell me that they didn't really watch all of my video, because I'm asking you not to thank me for my service. And I'm bringing this up for one main point here at the end. This scenario, somebody thanking me for my service, was one of the more difficult scenarios that I had when I got out. I don't know how to respond. I didn't join. So when I first got out, I would make sarcastic remarks like, I didn't join for you. Why are you asking me? I joined because I wanted to blow up stuff. I didn't join for you. You don't have to thank me. And that's kind of being a jerk. And it was just, I didn't know how to react. I didn't know how to answer that question or that statement. As I grew older and wiser, somebody finally told me, when somebody thanks you for your service, the best thing you can say back is thank you. And I'm like, that's dumb. Why would I thank somebody for thanking me? I'm like, what does that mean? And this was an old major told me this, and he said, no, you're thanking them for recognizing that your time in the military was a service to them. They're recognizing that you served your country, and like I did, I had no reason to go for those people. I simply joined because I wanted to serve my country. And frankly, blowing up stuff sounded better than going to college for me. That's why I joined. I didn't join because I felt like these people, you know, I'm doing it for these people over here that I need to serve for because they don't have the ability to serve. Hopefully this is just a quick piece that helps you. If somebody thanks you for your service when you get out, and they've probably already done that since you've been in, say thank you back. That's the answer I have. If you got something better, please let me know. But that's what I do now, and I'm thanking them for acknowledging that what I went through was a service to our country. And that was hard for me in the beginning. There you have it. I hope this helps. This video. So I feel like I've been a little negative. I'm downtrodden, and it's due to the stress this video has caused me. And you say, well, you know, as a military veteran, you're like, I didn't see any stress. What are you dealing with? Understand that I haven't talked to very many people about what I did. And I didn't go into detail in this video, but people understand or maybe know that I'm a veteran, but very few people, I can count them on one hand, know what actually happened. And by releasing this video on YouTube, I'm going to induce questions, or perhaps people will now know that something was different. And I really don't want to deal with that. And so that stress of people knowing that I served and that it wasn't the typical service stresses me out some, because I don't want to talk about it with people that don't understand. It's something that I did for me, and it's between me and my battle buddies. And so, but what happened was it made this video a little downtrodden. I didn't smile as much, I feel like, and it's not my typical farming style video, right? But I felt necessary to do it. I feel it's an important issue. And if you're a veteran and I can help you in any way, whether you're out already, or whether you've been out 20 years like me, whether you're getting out and you're thinking of going to this venture, email me, comment on here. I try to answer all my comments that are positive, at least. I will do anything I can to try to help you or guide you in the right direction. If you're within 100 miles and you want to come, I don't care if you want to drive further and you want to come and spend a day here working and hang out and talk and see what I do and see how things are, I'm more than happy to help you in any way I can with that. So there you have it. Understand you are not alone. The things that you're going to go through as you got out, or the things you're going through now that you're out, you are not alone. There are many of us going through or have gone through the same thing. And it's just like gleaning. Not all of us had the same experience, but all of us probably went through something that has changed our life, especially if you've served in the last 20 years. Prior to the Iraq War was the Vietnam guys. And so you would see these guys and the struggles they were going through, and it really didn't connect for a long time with people that were in the service until we got to these Iraq and Afghanistan war vets, which seems like has been going on forever, except for the last few years here. You're not alone. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope this video helped. And if you want more, if you want me to show you a few different things specific, please comment, let me know. My email is down here. I'll put links to the books. I'll put links to anything I can think of that could help you in the beginning down in the description. Thanks for watching.